6:04 p.m. Thank you, everyone. We are here for the Norte Solid Waste Management Authority special meeting this Tuesday, September the 3rd, and I will ask our clerk to please call the roll.
Commissioner Wilson,
Here.
Commissioner Tompkins,
Here.
Commissioner Greeno,
Here.
Commissioner Short,
Here.
Chair and Score.
Good job. I actually missed a word the last time I was doing it. It's like, I don't even know what I said. But, all right, we are going to enter into a time of general public comment. Any member of the public can address the Solid Waste Management Authority on any matter on or off the agenda. And you have 3 minutes. Do you have any public comment? Seeing none, we'll close public comment. We'll move on to consent. We have 4 items on consent. The special session minutes from July the 16th. The authority allocated dumpster support for the project on Old Mill Road. For the budget transfer of amount of $2,029 and a budget transfer for 24-25 in the amount of $96,651.
Move to approve.
Have a motion. Do I have a second? A second. A motion and a second. Any public comment?
I do have one question
Yes,
about
sir.
the cleanup of 2500 Old Mill Road. We were given one picture in our agenda,
Yes.
and it seems like there's a lot of metal. And I was just wondering, would it be favorable to Recology or possibly the transfer station to have an additional dumpster, like one for metal, one for just general garbage? Would that make it the process easier for us to approve that, or is it just fine the way it is?
I think we're
Don't
okay
know.
the way we are. I appreciate the impulse of trying to recover everything we can as we're doing a cleanup. It's largely a jumble of materials, and there might be some potential for metal recovery. So I will work with folks to try to recover as much as we can. The short answer is I don't believe having another dumpster out there would necessarily pencil out, but we could recover the material. And
Okay.
so I'll work with the parties involved and I'll take that to heart.
Okay, and that's fine. I just was wondering if the process would be easier. I realize on paper we would have 2 dumpsters and that would be more money, but I didn't know if the process would work better with.
We've been
the
working
metal
with
stuff.
both the property owners, Supervisor Starkey and Dominic Mello to strategize on the best way to go about this cleanup. As the board is probably aware, we don't do a whole lot of neighborhood cleanups. So there's an sort of an extra bit of hand holding because we want to make sure that this is a public event, that everybody in the neighborhood knows about it and is available to participate, and that we're trying to keep everybody as safe as possible throughout that process, but recognizing that essentially this dumpster is available for the cleanup of private properties that are in that neighborhood that are interested in cleaning that area up.
All right,
Thank
so, and with that said, and having already seconded a motion to approve the minutes of the consent agenda, I will make a note that one private citizen has made the comment that in the past, a county supervisor did request a dumpster for private cleanup, and the request was rejected on the basis that it would be a slippery slope to allow for us to pay for private property cleanup.
And we've jumped through those very hoops on this very project. Essentially, the additional concerns that have been expressed over the years to make sure that this is a public event, that it is a neighborhood cleanup and isn't a cleanup of one particular property. We've jumped through all those hoops in this case. In that prior case, that did not happen.
Very good, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Any public comment? All right. Seeing none, then we'll close public comment. And Kara, would you pull the vote on the consent agenda?
Commissioner Tompkins,
Yes.
Commissioner Greeno,
Yes.
Commissioner Wilson,
Yes.
Commissioner Short,
Yes.
Chair and Score.
Yes. Very good. Let's move on to the director's reports.
Thank you, Chair and Score. So we were closed on Monday, as per usual. That's one of the 5 holidays that we are closed. And so consequently, all collections will be delayed by 1 day this week. So if your normal collection day is Tuesday, you can expect your materials to be collected by Recology on Wednesday. Let's see. Also, September 28th is our annual Household Hazardous Waste Collection event. So that's from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. Those people who are watching this at home, please remember that the folks who tend to wait the longest in line are the ones that show up to be there at the front of the line at 9 o'clock. And those folks will wait up to 2 hours until they get service. The folks who come in, say between 11:30 and 1, can usually just sail right on through. So you might want to consider that as you're considering when to come. Many people still think of this as our paint day. That's no longer true in that we do take paints, stains, and water treatments in their original non-leaking, non-aerosol containers every day for no charge. So if you're not exactly sure what we accept and what we don't take, we do take the most common household hazardous materials every day. And so what some people are in the habit of doing now is in the next few weeks, they'll load up in their truck all the things that they might want to take to the hazardous waste. We'll take the ones we can take every day, and then they're all boxed up and they're ready for their collection event load as well. Because essentially you can bring paints to us during our household hazardous waste collection event on September 28th, but it is absolutely the most expensive way for us to manage those materials because it costs us between $100 and $175 per vehicle to attend this event. And so in general, it's a very expensive way to provide the service, and we do try to make that service conveniently available every day we're open. So if you got any questions about that, you can, of course, give us a call at 465-1100. We'd be happy to answer those questions. The other thing that's coming up, the cleanup event on September 7th, we've also got a beach cleanup event scheduled for Saturday, September 21st from 10 a.m. till noon. Thanks to the Redwood Parks Conservancy for organizing that. If you're interested in that, you can contact Autumn Subers at 707-564-7388. Another thing that's happened is Gabe Pamplona's metal recycling business is now closed. And so we are seeing a lot more inquiries about metals, metal appliances, refrigerators, et cetera. And of course, we accept those materials for charge every day. See other additional items that are otherwise not addressed by the agenda. We do have the constituent of concern monitoring, which will take a good deal of Kira's time in the coming months. We are also, we did have a bit of a run-in with a customer who was fairly irate towards the end of the day. We, as you may know, have a free bin, which enables people who are dropping off things like furniture and say records or CDs or something that somebody else might find valuable. They can still pay for disposal, but put it in the free shed. And then we make that available to customers so that if customer finds something they want in the free shed, they can weigh out on their way out and then go get the item, put it in their load, and they can go on their merry way after signing the liability release form. But people like free stuff, and some folks who like free stuff get almost aggressive about it. That they find the metal folding chair that they really want, and they really don't want to go through a process where they're putting that thing they want back available to everybody else. So anyway, it became an issue, and so our procedure now is the free bin gets emptied by 4:30, so we don't have an end of the day fracas like we had that day. Let's see, continuing on, did attend the CRA conference, the California Resource Recovery Association conference from August 19th to 22nd in Anaheim. And I'm happy to say that the panel that I spoke at during the conference was also one of the folks attending. It was the new director of Cal Recycle, Zoe Heller. And since they're the agency that look over our shoulder to make sure we're doing a good job, I felt very good that she wanted to talk further about several of the slides that I had in my presentation. So generally building a good working relationship there. I'd be happy to answer any questions, but I guess one more thing I need to mention, we do have 2 open positions for refuse site attendants. We've gone through the recruitment process, and we have 2 applicants that we plan on interviewing. We also had a former employee approach us about possibly being rehired. And since they're already trained, We are in discussions with the Del Norte County Human Resources Department to make sure that we're treating this situation appropriately and that we have 2 open positions. Folks who've actually applied for it, we want to be respectful of those applicants. We also want to recognize that rehiring a person who's already trained is an advantage to the agency.
Any questions for Director Ward?
Just one quick one. On your comments about the paint, you said non-aerosol, non-leaking containers. Did I miss one of your other criteria?
It paints, stains, and water treatments, and they're
Water
original
treatments, okay.
non-aerosol, non-leaking containers.
Okay, thank you.
All right, let's go ahead and move on to the finances. then,
Okay,
please.
financial reports. We have a partial report with respect to the treasurer and controller's reports because we do not yet have the report for August from the county. But you can see from our accounts receivable aging, Kathy continues to stay on top of it, even though she's on vacation currently, but anything that's over 90 days past due gets turned over to collections, as you'll see. Looking at claims approved by director, once again, you'll see that our biggest payments were to Hambro WSG for the good services they provide at the Del Norte County Transfer Station. Also to the sublease payment, that's our one of our 2 annual payments to the county to essentially pay for the loan for the construction of the transfer station. And then the 2 next largest expenses, including expenses to the Del Norte County Auditor's Office for our credit and debit card charges, and another one to the auditor's office for our interfund cost plan, paying for things like personnel services, accounting services, and IT services. Continuing on the financial reports, you can see the monthly cash and charge reports indicate that our revenue continues to come in at the summer levels. And looking at our revenue report, since we do not yet have August numbers available since the month's just closed, looking at July, we are currently $22,489 ahead of budget at this point in time. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Questions? All right.
Okay, moving on. The next item on today's agenda is the community planning proposal we received from the Del Norte and Tribal Lands Community Food Council. They're the single proposal that we received. We did have a budgeted amount under the grant that we have from Cal Recycle of $20,000, and their proposed amount is just under that conveniently. And so they appear fully qualified, and staff recommend approval of this proposal and direction of staff to negotiate an agreement and get signatures on that agreement so we can start work.
All right, any questions?
Yeah, specifically what, I guess, noting that we are about to have the governors likely sign legislation that will exempt communities like ours from having to be bound to the 1383 mandates. What is the work that is going to be done by this project?
The legislation that's headed towards the governor's desk, which we'll discuss on the next item, won't actually exempt us from all the requirements under SB 1383. It will extend some of the deferrals, but there are still a variety of different planning activities that we need to engage on, particularly with respect to food rescue programs, with respect to backyard composting programs, and procurement programs. So though none of those aspects have been deferred, and we need to go about a process by which we decide where our priorities are and what it is we're going to be pursuing. And so this contractor is going to help us with that community planning process. As you may recall, we also have a technical services contract, Mary Pitto, that will be providing technical background on some of the different options that we'll be considering. So essentially, we've got a community meeting contractor and a technical services contractor, and we're going to be working with the Del Norte Solid Waste Task Force on a series of community meetings by which we decide where those priorities are. Of course, that will come back to the authority board, and you're welcome to attend those public meetings. But the concept is the task force has capacity and interest for those longer, more detailed meetings, and can do some of the work before bringing those options to the authority board for decision.
So could you expand on what we are going to still be bound to do? You said composting and
Currently, we need to. I will need to revisit this pending the legislation. But in general, the food rescue requirements that are under SB 1383, we need to do. The procurement requirements that are under SB 1383 need to be done mostly by the city and the county, and we do reporting on their behalf. Some of the monitoring and enforcement provisions are done by the Del Norte County Department of Environmental Health, and we'll be working with them on those issues. So all of those things are present, and then there may be additional planning things that we move forward with, depending upon the requirements and the situation. There have been discussions, for instance, about how to process downed animals, whether or not we're going to be having any additional capacity for dealing with large dead animals, materials collected by rendering companies, those kinds of options. But essentially, we're looking at all of the organic materials that had been disposed that go into the landfill that generate methane, and we're looking at ways that we can change the management of those to reduce that generation.
sorry about that, but thank you. Yeah, I wasn't aware that a few of those were still going to be required of us, so I appreciate you updating us.
And correct me, Director Ward, if I'm misunderstand, but part of, regardless of what exemptions end up coming through this, part of the whole SB 1383 process was the requirement to do community engagement. It's a box that has to be checked. That's why they provided the grant. And so the community engagement has to happen regardless of whether the exemptions become law or don't become law. And this is a way for us to take that off of staff's plate, find a contractor to have these community meetings. And we check the box saying that we've taken opportunity to listen to our community, address the needs, listen, and we've done that piece that's required.
And there may be opportunities. For instance, both the Taloa, Dani, and the Yurok tribes are making efforts in this regard. There might be ways that we can coordinate those
Might
efforts.
leverage some out of the
Similarly, working with the school district, there may be a variety of opportunities that get uncovered through this process. But essentially, it's an opportunity to figure out what our game plan is, to get everybody on the same page, and then chart a course and start walking down that path. But if we don't have that process, then there's always the risk if we start a few steps down the path and someone says, well, who says that's the right path? We want to make sure we're all in agreement before we start those first steps.
So that brings, in my mind, that brings the question, how much latitude do we have? Thank you. How much latitude do we have within the framework of those new laws being written up for?
That's a really excellent question, and one that we will continue to revisit because, like I said, as you point out, this legislation will be on the governor's desk, and if he signs it, things are slightly different. That's part of the reason why we have a technical consultant to make sure that we are checking all the boxes that need to be checked and that we're not doing stuff that doesn't need to be done or doesn't serve our community.
Or fulfill the law.
Any of those, right? But it is kind of a moving target, and in all honesty, because we have a pretty good relationship with the Rural Counties ESJPA, we're in a good position to try to advocate what makes sense for our community and to try to assert that. And part of that is working with our community to decide what that is.
I'm assuming there's going to be some teeth in this law, which I would assume would be fines if we don't meet, the basics. And so there is some financial liability involved here too, right?
There is. I try not to go there first off because we're trying to build a positive program, not try to run away in fear.
Right. I'm thinking in terms of the public input, as well, how much real input can they have? how much real effect on how we go can they actually have?
We're starting this process. So, but it will depend upon community input. So, Kira and I could meet together with our consultants and come up with something. It wouldn't be as good as having the broader community engagement, and we're sure of that. So, we really want to have those.
So this is really as much about getting the community to buy in as anything else, right?
Well said, sir.
All right. Anything else? Any public comment? Okay, so we're looking for a motion to accept the proposal from Norte Food Council.
I so move.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Kira, would you please pull the vote?
Commissioner Tompkins,
Yes.
Commissioner Greeno,
Yes.
Commissioner Wilson.
Yep.
Commissioner Short,
Yes.
Chair and Score.
Yes. All right, our 6.2, our last item is to talk about legislative matters. Director Ward.
I feel really good about the engagement the board has conducted this legislative year with really the hundreds of bills that were introduced. The 4 bills that we really zeroed down on and said, all right, oppose this one, support these 3. The 3 we're supporting are all headed for the governor's desk. The one that we opposed died. So we're looking good on the whole. Those bills that we supported include AB 2902, as Supervisor Short mentioned. This is the bill from Assemblymember Wood to try to essentially extend many of the rural exemptions and accommodations that are in SB 1383 so that they last a longer period. There have been a number of edits to that, so it did get whittled down from its original state, but in general, it's still a good bill, and we're happy that it's headed for the governor's desk. Then we also have the SB 1066, the Blakespeare bill, which essentially requires producers of marine flares to implement a producer responsibility program for those expired marine flares. This will provide a significant incentive for the reusable signaling systems that we're promoting, but it also will allow for a much more practical collection of those projectile explosives that are required by the Coast Guard. So we're happy that's headed for the governor's desk. And then finally, we've got SB 1280, which will prohibit the sale of single-use propane containers and instead would require small propane cylinders sold in the state to be reusable or refillable. Kira has worked for several years on grant programs with CPSC to promote reusable propane cylinders. And so there was a prior bill that did a similar thing that the governor vetoed. And we're hoping that the expansion of that refillable program has been an adequate growth that the governor will sign the bill this time. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Absolutely. Yeah. Okay.
And I guess I would add one more thing that because of Assemblymember Wood is our representative, as I was driving home from the conference, I was specifically asked by the head of CPSC to call and send messages to Assemblymember Wood indicating that we were still very eager for his support, and that did help move it out of committee. So we're happy to remain engaged, but it does help to have our partners through CPSC and the rural counties ESJPA act as our voices in the legislature and tell us when and how we need to support their efforts.
All right, very good. If we don't have anything else, then we will stand adjourned until our next meeting, which will be on October 22nd.
Second.
Right here.
That will also be a special meeting. It's moved by 1 week.
Okay, we're adjourned. Thank you.